All right, let's just jump right in. I want you to do me a favor and bring a very specific current stressor to mind right now. Maybe it's a looming project deadline at work, a really tense conversation you literally just had, or, a mistake you made this morning. Got it? Okay, good. Hold that in your head for just a second. Notice how absolutely enormous it feels up close right now. I mean, when we're trapped inside a stressful moment, it completely fills our field of vision, right? It demands all of our mental energy and physical attention. But what if the sheer size of that problem is actually just an illusion?
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're exploring a highly effective, incredibly practical method to quickly reset your perspective and conquer anxiety. And what I find so fascinating about this is that this technique comes straight from Marcus Aurelius. Think about it, a Roman emperor who managed the crushing daily stress of massive wars, devastating plagues, and deep personal betrayals, all using this exact go-to habit. So if it worked for an emperor holding an entire empire together, it can absolutely work for our everyday modern stress.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the problem of proportion, move on to the core concept, look at the 60-second method, dive into real-world applications, cover some common mistakes and fixes, and finally, wrap up with a quick final exercise. Okay, section 1, the problem of proportion. There is a single totally crucial truth we have to understand before we can even begin to tackle our anxiety. And it's this: the size you feel is rarely the size it actually is. It's kind of like holding a tiny coin right up against your eye. Even though it's barely an inch wide, it blocks out the entire room. And that is exactly what happens when a problem presses in on us. An ordinary slip-up or a minor argument just swells completely out of proportion because, well, we're simply too close to it. Zooming out doesn't magically make the problem disappear, but it absolutely restores its true scale, giving you the actual breathing room to handle it.
Moving on to section 2, the core concept.
So, it turns out, Marcus Aurelius had a specific go-to habit for his anxiety. It's called the view from above. Basically, this is a structured mental move where you zoom out and see your situation as small and temporary, allowing you to rapidly reset your sense of proportion. And I really want to emphasize the word deliberate here. This isn't some toxic positivity drill, right? It's not one of those vague, empty platitudes where someone just tells you to let it go or look on the bright side. No way. This is a calculated action. Marcus would mentally rise up and look down on his situation from a great height to actively break the illusion of its size. And the practical payoffs of doing this are just massive. By deliberately zooming out, you instantly diffuse your anxiety and deflate your own ego. It cools those petty conflicts and completely clears your head before you make a decision, mainly because you're no longer deciding from inside a problem that has swollen way out of proportion. It also profoundly frees you from the crushing weight of other people's opinions. Remember, this was an emperor who was constantly being judged by the public. But Marcus realized that even vast fame and fortune vanish from memory incredibly fast. I mean, the names everyone praised back then, they're mostly forgotten now. When you realize the crowd's verdict just sort of evaporates over time, you stop organizing your entire life around it. All right, section 3, the 60-second method. Let's walk through this spatial zoom out together. This is your 5-step toolkit. Step 1, name the one stressor. Pick that single conflict or worry and state it firmly in one plain sentence. This gives your mind a fixed object to zoom out from. Step 2, rise out of the room. Picture yourself lifting up and seeing the room you're in right now from above. See yourself sitting there with this problem. Then see the building, the street, the neighborhood. Already, the problem is starting to feel like just one tiny detail in a much larger scene. Step 3, keep climbing. Let your view widen. Rise up until you see the whole city, thousands of people utterly absorbed in their own urgent crises right this very second. Then see the continent, and finally, the quiet curve of the whole planet. Your situation is just one tiny point among millions of lives happening all at once. Okay, next is step 4. Now we zoom out in time, not just space. Widen your view across the centuries. Picture the past generations who lived before you. Literally, every single one of their intense, world-ending crises is either completely resolved or entirely forgotten. Then, picture the generations who will come after you, people who will never even hear your problem's name. Ask yourself, in 10 years, how much of this will I even remember? Seeing this grand, sweeping flow of history is what truly dissolves the permanence of our dread. And finally, step 5, drop back down and resize. Now, the absolute best part about all of this entire sequence takes just 60 seconds. Seriously, With a little practice, you can run this in exactly 1 minute with your eyes wide open right before a hard conversation or literally right before hitting send on a super tense email. You travel to the cosmos and back, and boom, you're ready to act.
Let's look at Section 4, real-world applications. Let's take the embarrassing mistake. Say you called someone the wrong name in a really important meeting. Maybe you even accidentally called your boss mom, right? And you've been cringing about it all afternoon. Up close, it feels like a devastating referendum on your overall competence. But run the zoom out. From way above, that meeting room is literally just one lit window in a city of thousands of windows. Zoom across time. Honestly, no one is going to recall this by Friday, let alone next year. When you drop back down to earth, the slip is exactly what it is, a 2-second blip. And realizing this lets you just laugh it off and move on, rather than marinating in embarrassment for days.
Now, apply it to a heated conflict. You're mid-argument, you are absolutely certain you're right, and you're braced for a fight. Up close, it's an urgent battle. But right before you fire back that angry response, you climb. From the height Marcus used, you see 2 small figures locked over something that, from way up here, has no visible shape at all. You see all the millions of people who have ever argued, made up, and then been completely forgotten. You come back down still caring deeply about the relationship, but you realize you no longer care about winning. The immense relief of letting go of that ego is often the exact difference between a destructive fight and a deeply productive conversation.
Moving to Section 5, mistakes and fixes. So there are 3 common traps people fall into when trying this out. Mistake number 1 is treating this like positive thinking. Pretending the problem is all fine. But pretending a real problem is nothing, it just feels fake and your brain won't buy it. The fix here is don't shrink the problem to 0. Shrink it to its true size. A genuine issue stays an issue, it just stops being a world-ending catastrophe. Mistake 2 is zooming out in space, but not in time. Picturing the vast planet is cool, but the worry can still feel permanent. The fix is to always add the time pass. Transience is what actually does the heavy lifting to dissolve our ego and our dread. And mistake 3, and honestly, this is a big one, using the cosmic scale to avoid acting entirely. Thinking nothing matters in the grand scheme of the universe can really quickly become a lazy excuse to just disengage from your life. But remember step 5, you must drop back down. You zoom out to gain proportion, sure, but you return to Earth to decide and act with a clear head, not to float away forever.
And finally, Section 6, the final exercise. Think back to that specific stressor I asked you to picture at the very start of this explainer. If you were to write it down right then, what was its felt size on a scale of 1 to 10? How big did it actually seem? Now, I want you to mentally run that full zoom out for 60 seconds. Go from your room, to the city, to the planet, through the immense sweep of generations, and back to right now. After doing that, what is the true size of that stressor on a 1 to 10 scale? The gap between your before number and your after number, that is your definitive proof. It proves this is a tangible, practical tool and not just a temporary mood.
I'll leave you with this final thought to carry with you today. What does your current stressor look like from a century away? The next time you feel crushed by the weight of a moment, remember that you have the literal power to rise above it, resize it, and return to tackle it with total clarity. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.